I'm really trying to love these, and at factory sale prices, I really should. But, how you going? Welcome to Bootlosophy. My name is Teg. I acknowledge the TOs of Wadjet country on which I work. This is the famous Northampton brand Trickers iconic boot, the Stow. But this isn't really the iconic makeup in their tan calf called Acorn Antique. I bought this in their factory sale for Aussie $545, and at retail pricing they would have been 1,000 Aussie dollars plus postage, etc. Unfortunately, they didn't have the smooth full-grain calf version in their famous acorn coloured tan available in the sale, so I opted for this one. This is in C F Stead's Hydro Nubuck. It's a treated nubuck that's totally waterproof, and this is in a colourway called Whiskey. The design of this boot is the traditional English brogue derby country boot. It's 5.5 inches high in the shaft, has a low heel, a flat day-night sole constructed using a storm welt. I'll go into that later. The uppers are cut in an English brogue style with wings coming back from the toe cap, and all the edges of the pieces of leather are pinked and also brogued with these holes. The toe has a broguing pattern on it, and the 7 big eyelets finish the look of the English country boot. It's a derby boot because of the open flaps that form the lacing quarters. It's a country boot because of the sturdier design and construction with storm welts and wider forefoot shapes. Broguing is the term used to describe the punching of the pattern of holes on the uppers. In their rawest form, brogues can be traced back to 18th century Britain, when the perforations went all the way through the shoe in order to let water drain out when Irish and Scottish farmers in particular walked over boggy terrain, stopping the whole boot from becoming a jug of water. They were considered a country boot in the 1920s and 30s, think Downton Abbey, and they were worn in England when you were in the country, walking or tramping across the long wet grass or hunting and shooting. By the 1980s, however, they had transcended to become a gentleman's city shoe or boot and a staple footwear piece in their own right, becoming one of the most iconic shoe designs from the UK. Joseph Sheeney's website, a lot more informative than the Trickers website, says that they are now appropriate for men's formal wear. And in fact, when I was working in England in the early 1980s, late 1970s, it wasn't unusual for men to wear black or tan brogues with 3-piece suits in the financial and legal centres of the City of London. While brogues can be formal boots, even in the wider country boot style lasts, you would usually expect the more formal models to be in smooth and polished full-grain leathers in, say, dark brown, burgundy, or black, or maybe even the darker tan like the acorn colour. These in Nubuck and in the light tan that they call Whiskey is a lot less formal. So what outfits would you pair with these? The Whiskey colour goes well with earth or neutral colours like navy and camel, which are 2 great colour combinations. Camel trousers and a navy blazer set off with a conservative tie and a pop of a pocket square is great with this Whiskey colour in a business casual outfit. I also like wearing them with a monochromatic outfit like all black, even with a black button-down shirt. The overall muted colour of the outfit allows the Whiskey tan to pop, but still stay in that smart casual category. They also go well with denim because of the casual nature of this Whiskey colour. Now, I'm sure you can put on a t-shirt, but that's not my style, and I prefer a collared shirt like this from Proper Cloth over darker denim like this pair from Huckberry, even if I then throw on a beat-up leather jacket for a really casual look. Now let's get into the history of the brand. But before we do, can you take a moment and click on the like button to help me out? And if you're not already subscribed and like informative deep dive boot reviews of all kinds of heritage boots, why not click on subscribe as well? Okay, so let's take a look at Trickers. Trickers say that they are the oldest established shoemaker in Britain, founded in 1829 by Joseph Tricker. It doesn't seem to be until the 1840s, though, that their shoemaking business came together in a factory in Northampton, England. Previously, there were sort of small workshops that consolidated. Now, if you're a boot nerd, you know that Northampton is another center of quality footwear making, like the Pacific Northwest in the United States, Leon in Mexico, and Bandung in Indonesia. Northampton cordwainers started making footwear as far back as the 14th century, and a shoemakers guild was formed in 1401 in the town. By 1525, it was known as an influential footwear town, and all the shoemakers in the town belonged to the guild, which controlled the trade, quality standards, even the religion of the members. The shoemaking centered into Northampton in the Midlands because it was near the three critical elements: leather from cattle raised in the farms in the county of Northamptonshire, plentiful oak bark from the medieval forests in Northants, and a plentiful supply of clean water from the River Nene used in the tanning. Northampton was also a market town that was within easy travel to and from London and other large industrial towns like Birmingham, Leicester, and Sheffield. It was also a stopping place on the Drove Road from Wales to London where cattle were driven. In 1989, the then Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, awarded Trickers with the Prince's Royal Warrant of the Three Welsh Feathers. In the UK, this is an award or distinctive seal given to suppliers of various goods to the royal family, and each royal awarded their own royal warrants. In 2024, the Prince's Royal Warrant was renewed as a royal warrant from the new king, now King Charles III, after his mother's death, with the monarch's crest instead of the Welsh feathers. Trickers boots and shoes are still made entirely in their Northampton factory, opened in 1904. And Trickers say that whilst manufacturing processes have changed over time, they say, their craftspeople continue to follow the traditional techniques developed over decades. So let's take a look. I'll start from the bottom and work my way up this boot. The outsole is a day-night studded outsole. Now, day-night is another historic English business, and this sole is called day-night because the original mills or factories worked from day to night. It is a firm rubber and sturdy while also shock absorbing. It's grippy under most conditions, but can be slippery on slick wet tiles or smooth concrete pavers because they're such hard rubbers. The heel is stacked veg tan leather, topped by a day-night top lift. The sole construction is attached to the uppers using Goodyear welt construction. In Goodyear welt construction, the uppers are lasted and then stitched to the leather insole on the inside of the boot to the inside edge of the welt. The welt is a strip of leather that goes all the way around the edge of the boot, hence it's called a 360-degree welt in this case. Once the uppers and insole have been stitched to the inside edge of the welt, the cavity caused by the welt going around the edge is filled with cork, and then a shank is inserted in the arch area, and a veg tan midsole is glued on top. The day-night sole is glued on top of that, and then the outside edge of the welt is stitched through to the midsole and outsole, keeping it all together. In this case, Trickers, like most UK boot makers, use a wooden willow shank. Now, these may break and may have to be replaced when you resole, but the argument is that they are flexible while still giving you arch support and some rigidity. They're also airport friendly, but I don't suppose that was a consideration in the 1920s. Also in this case, they use what's called a storm welt. This is a welt where the leather, instead of just being a flat strip, has a ridge carved in the middle of it. This ridge is then pressed up against the outside of the uppers when it's stitched so that it provides additional water resistance. Goodyear welt construction is said to be water resistant, and it is definitely resolable so that the boots are not thrown away when worn through, but you can take them to a cobbler to have the outsole replaced. The welt here is about 3 millimeters thick. The leather midsole is about the same, and then the day-night rubber outsole itself is 5 millimeters thick. Coupled with a cork filler on the inside, you have about a centimeter or so of sole construction under your feet. How comfortable is this? I'll tell you in a minute, but we'll carry on with the construction and move up the boot. I won't show you because of what I've added inside, but in the boot at the heel area, they glue on a patch of leather as the sock protector. It's stamped with Trickers seal, and in my case, the Prince of Wales's Royal Warrant crest. I'm standing on it. The whole boot is lined with a really soft calf leather, and in between the lining leather and the uppers leather, they insert a heat-activated plastic toe puff to keep shape, and I think a leather heel counter at the back. The heel counter is actually quite firm, but it's not uncomfortable. The uppers leather is a Nubuck from yet another old and famous English business, the tannery C F Stead, based in Leeds, further north of Northampton. Nubuck is a top grain leather, and the most famous version is the Timberland yellow boot. It's made by buffing the grain side of the hide, so it's actually a full grain leather with a grain side buffed off. This removes the easily marked and scratched top grain and produces a short, fine nap of protein fibers, giving it a velvet-like texture that's soft to the touch, but very scratch-proof and durable. Similar to suede in feel, but stronger because it retains part of that outer layer of the hide. The napped surface makes Nubuck breathable, allowing for more comfort. In tanning this Hydro Nubuck, Stead has treated it with a waterproof oil-impregnated process, but one that leaves it dry and soft to the touch. It really does allow water to roll off it like the proverbial duck's back. This means that it follows in the tradition of Trickers' iconic Stow boot in the Acorn Calf skin. That is, it has a high waterproof capability for walking in the country over wet, tall grasses and maybe in puddles and across shallow streams. Yet, this version does not have a bellows or gusseted tongue. Now, my friend Ellie, who's on Instagram as the Heritage Tribute, loves his Acorn Stow boots for comfort, more of that later, and waterproofability. We compared notes from his boot to these. We're both a bit confused as to why these do not have any gusting at all in the tongue when the Acorn version does. And yet, this is waterproof Hydro Nubuck. I don't understand it. Let's move on to caring for this Nubuck. If you read 10 websites on caring for Nubuck, you will get 10 different approaches. So I'll tell you what I do and give it to you with a bit of warning. That's what you do is kind of up to you, but this is my best routine that hasn't, touch wood, let me down yet. The first word of warning is that if you condition it with any regular conditioner, you could give it a sheen rather than leave it with this dry, matte look. What I do is brush off loose dirt and grit with a soft horsehair brush, a clean one, not one you just use to brush off a waxy conditioner. Then, if there are any spots, use a suede eraser and spot clean it as much as you can. Where the stain is really ingrained, I have had good results with a slightly damp magic eraser and then let it dry. Or you can try Timberland's Renubuck foaming cleanser and follow the instructions. As for conditioning, you can use a suede conditioner made by Saphir. However, I don't believe you need to condition Nubuck unless it is so dry it looks like paper. You see, the problem is that it is a very dry feeling leather and so it's hard to tell. If you can't help yourself, you can get the Saphir product, but I find that it's enough to spray on a waterproofer, again like Timberland's Balm Proofer. I'll leave a link below. Let's talk about sizing. It's an English brand, so they use the UK sizing convention. If you're American, take your true size and choose one number down. This imagines you know your true size, not your sneaker size. Go to a shoe store and get measured on a branded device. If you say an 8.5 in D width, like I am, take one number off and order a UK 7.5 in the number 5 fitting. It's pretty wide, so no worries there. As for comfort, I don't know. The Stow is renowned for comfort, and especially in the Acorn version. But this, not so much for me. Firstly, I don't find it has any arch support at all. The inside is very flat, and even the insole cork outsole combination feels pretty thin to me. And if and when it molds to the shape of my feet, it's going to be a pretty shallow mold. My friend Ellie loves his Stow in the Acorn and says they're very comfy. I don't get it, not for me. I've had to put in a stick-on arch support wedge in the arch area for enough comfort to stand all day in. One day I'm going to get an OG Acorn model and then we'll see. I have to be careful what I say about value because you have to see it in context, right? This particular style isn't on their website at time of recording, but all their Stow models seem to be the same price, 1,031 Aussie dollars or 595 pounds sterling, all the same, no matter what leather. Not cheap, so let's get it in context by first comparing it to other boots like Regwin's Blacksmith, say, which is a reasonably similar looking outdoorsy and capable of being indoors boot. That's nearly 600 Aussie dollars, but the finesse and finishing is way better in these. A Parkhurst in a smooth grain leather can be used in the office and to go tramping in the English countryside. They're in the mid 600s Aussie, and again, not as finessed at finishing, but good. In contrast, an Alden Indy, that's a good indoor-outdoor boot, is 1,300 Aussie dollars. Let's not go there. An Alan Edmonds McAllister Brogue boot is nearly 1,500 Aussie, so I'd say we've reached the limit of comparison. Then I think we need the context of made in England footwear, one of the most industrialized manufacturing countries with a high cost of living, comparatively high wages, and high land and utilities costs. And you find that made in England brands, where they don't have a second mark that's made in India, will be that sort of pricing. £500 to £600 or about 1,200 Aussie bucks. Is it worth it? I bought these on sale for 40% off, and that's probably a steal. If you really want the style, it's not so different in price than other good brands with the same finishing standards, so you might want to pay over 1,000 Aussie for them. But to me, they don't feel like you get lots of boot for these, unlike say Nicks or Whites. Yes, I know, totally different. But weighty bang for buck is favouring the P&W brands to me. If and when I get my hands on an OG Acorn model, I might sing a different tune, considering they'd be the same price. So stay tuned. And the best way to stay tuned, by the way, is to subscribe. And please help me out by clicking on like. Until next week, stay safe and see you again soon.